Hi everyone, welcome to another video. For New Year's Eve this year, I thought I would make my own shirt. I used a pattern from the 1940s. I really wanted to make something special to wear this year to bring in 2025. So let's get sewing.
So starting out, I'm going to be using advanced pattern 3652 today. I'm going to be making view 2 with the long sleeves. I believe this pattern is from the mid to late 1940s. I really love vintage advanced patterns. I think that the styles are always really unique and special. So whenever I get to work with advanced patterns, it's really fun for me. So here I'm just cutting the pattern pieces out as normal. For this pattern, I really wanted to use a fabric that was going to be durable and hold up really well to washing. So I am using a regular 100% cotton fabric in this kind of pinkish salmon color. I did this whole pattern in French seams. Those are like my new obsession. I think that they're great for making a really durable garment, and in the new year I really want to focus on making more durable pieces of clothing and more professional seam finishes. This was probably the hardest part of the pattern, was doing these pleats, pinning them down and making them look even on both sides. As far as challenging projects go, the rest of this pattern was actually pretty easy to follow and make, but this part was probably the most difficult for me to do. That being said, I do think the pleats came out really nicely, and I chose to add this like lacy detail piece on to the last pleat underneath and sew that on to secure it. I thought it was a really nice holiday themed accent to the shirt. So sewing the pleats was pretty easy. I just went by the edges and got really close and secured those down as I went. So today, what I'd like to talk about in this video is not only what I'm sewing, but kind of a remembrance of my grandmother who passed away recently. She was the person who originally taught me how to hand sew, and it's because of her that I got interested in sewing my own clothing and making my own garments. The first thing that she ever taught me was how to tie a knot on the end of a thread to hand sew. So she was really important in kind of fueling my creative drive to start sewing. She herself was a very creative person. She sewed, she wrote poetry, she painted, and she was really inspiring to me when I was young. I think this really applies for anyone who has lost someone, a friend or a relative, that was really important to them and pivotal in their development. My grandmother had such an important role in creating my interests early on and kind of helping me through early childhood, and because of that, sewing recently has been kind of a way for me to remember her. So it has been a little bit painful to sew and complete projects because all my memories of her kind of come back. So I have been making projects, but a lot slower than I usually would. It's so important to kind of acknowledge that, and the fact that she was so important to me and the reason that I kind of started on this journey of learning how to make my own garments. I think we don't realize what an important role people play in our lives until they're gone, unfortunately. I mean, we know that when they're in our lives, they're important, but when they're gone, we really start thinking about all of the memories that we have of them and how important they were to us just in every aspect of our lives. Dealing with loss of a family member or a friend can be difficult when you have to do something every day that reminds you of them. And that was me with sewing and my grandmother. So I'm kind of using the craft of sewing to remember her. When I do hand sewing or machine sewing, I think of all the things she taught me, and while that is painful at times, I remember that this is something that she encouraged me to do, and this is kind of a way for me to honor her memory. So here I am just doing the side seams of the blouse. I really had kind of a hard time with this blouse on the neckline. Right now I'm doing the bottom hem of the shirt, but you'll see in a moment doing the neckline. The pattern actually instructed to use a seam binding or like maybe a bias tape. I didn't want to buy that. One, because there wasn't one that matched this fabric specifically very well, and two, I just don't like spending $4 to $5 on a bias tape, so I just cut out my own from the fabric and sewed it down, but the angle of the neckline made that kind of challenging. I kind of had to feed it through the machine, as you see me doing here, and make sure that everything was tucked under at the same time to secure it down. The tops of the sleeves, which I really like this feature, it's almost in every 1940s pattern I've used, but they have pretty strong gathers at the tops of the sleeves, and that makes like a cute little puff at the top. So that's definitely one of my favorite parts about this pattern and about 1940s patterns in general. It makes them look very feminine and gives a very good shape to your shoulders. It makes your waist look smaller. It's good all around. Probably the most challenging part of doing French seams is doing them on the arms. I probably liked that part least about the French seams in general. Here I am just finishing the little edges of the cuffs, doing some hand sewing to finish those off. And then I top stitched them down into place. There was also gathers on the ends of the arms, so they were a little bit voluminous at the ends, not by much, but just enough to give it like a little puff before the cuff is sewn down, which fit pretty snugly around the wrist. And because I did bound buttonholes in the back of the shirt, I also chose to do them on the cuffs just so everything matched really well. And I also used the same black buttons I used on the back. And here it is. This is the final result. I really think this shirt came out very well. The pleats came out nice. This was actually very simplistic to make, and I will probably be making these in more colors. So I am so excited to show you guys this finished project and talk to you a little bit about my grandmother and her memory. So if you liked this video, please comment, like, and subscribe. It helps me to grow my channel here on YouTube, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!